attending the wedding of a childhood friend with my boyfriend after 3 days of Cold War. He was in the groomsmen party, and I was in the bridesmaids party. During the games, he lost. As punishment, he had to carry all the bridesmaids downstairs. He smiled and carried everyone on his back, except for me. Among them, a sweet-looking bridesmaid suddenly asked him, "Do you have a girlfriend?" He glanced at me. "No." The girl boldly and enthusiastically asked, "Then can I pursue you?" He smiled politely. "Of course." Suddenly, I felt utterly bored. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. At the wedding venue setup, I stood outside the crowd. My gaze involuntarily followed Sean's figure. He wore a well-tailored black suit, standing tall with a gentle smile. He was standing with the bridesmaid. The bridesmaid held a red balloon in her hand, smiling with curved eyes and blushing cheeks. From time to time, she lowered her head and pursed her lips, appearing shy and sweet. Sean's gaze remained fixed on her, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. My heart felt as if it had been tightly gripped by something, and my breath grew slightly labored. Was I being too sensitive? Suddenly, Sean took the bridesmaid's phone, crouched down, and began taking photos of her. The bridesmaid was striking various poses. Sean also showed great patience with everyone. But when we went to Uintuzu to see cherry blossoms this spring, he looked visibly impatient. "What's so worth photographing?" He reluctantly took a few shots, and when I looked, they were all blurry figures. A trace of bitterness welled up in my heart. I had thought this wedding would be a turning point in our relationship. He once said he would give me a surprise at the wedding. We both knew it all too well. An 8-year-long romantic journey. He would propose to me when he caught the bridal bouquet. But now, he stands beside another girl, smiling so naturally. The bride patted my shoulder from behind, interrupting my thoughts. "Hedda, you finally came. Busy bee. When will you treat me to your wedding feast?" Her teasing tone only made me more flustered. I forced a smile and replied vaguely, "It should be soon, I guess." Following my gaze, she also spotted Sean. Then she excitedly waved at him. "School heartthrob. Hedda says you two are getting close to good news." Her voice was clear and loud, drawing sidelong glances from those around. I instinctively tugged at her wrist, trying to stop her from continuing. Sean heard the sound and turned to look. His gaze lingered on my face for a moment before coolly shifting away. In a calm yet distant tone, "Don't make a fuss." My best friend gave an awkward smile and signaled me with her eyes. "Broke up." I forced a bitter smile. "We had a fight and are in a Cold War now." My best friend patted me on the shoulder to comfort me. During the wedding procession, we arranged a little game. Sean lost. The penalty was carrying the 3 of us bridesmaids downstairs. He smiled and carried everyone on his back, except for me. Panting slightly, he said, "Sorry, I can't carry any more." Only then did the bridesmaid notice me. Giving me a curious glance, she asked softly, "Excuse me, do you two know each other?" Sean barely hesitated and calmly uttered 2 words. "Childhood friend." My heart felt as if it had been pierced again by something sharp, the pain spreading relentlessly. He actually refused to acknowledge our relationship. Forcing a smile, I nodded and said, "Yeah, if you want to hear about his childhood embarrassments, you can ask me." Sean probably didn't expect me to respond like this. The smile instantly faded. I asked in return, "What's wrong?" He said angrily, "Hedda, don't go too far. What did I do that was too much? Are you that afraid I'll reveal his embarrassing past?" At that moment, the bridesmaid broke the awkwardness between us. She blinked her eyes and smiled sweetly. "Really? That's great. I was just thinking of getting to know him better." She turned to look at Sean, a playful glint in her eyes. "So, can I pursue you?" Sean didn't look at me, just slightly curled his lips and said casually, "Of course." At that moment, I felt my world crumble. Sean has a handsome face, and over the years, countless admirers have tried to swoop in, but each time, he would firmly reject them without hesitation. "Sorry, I'm already engaged." At that time, we had only just started dating. He had already included me in the scope of marriage, giving me a full sense of security. Now it's just a phrase like, "childhood friend." I tried to comfort myself in my heart, thinking he must be deliberately trying to provoke me. There's no way he would really do this to me. Yet, the surrounding jeers felt like sharp knives stabbing into my heart. Onlookers always enjoy others' misfortunes. Sean smiled as he pulled out his phone from his pocket, opened the QR code, and handed it to Fanny with utmost naturalness. His smile still carried a hint of shyness. It reminded me so much of my junior year, when I was preparing to study abroad. Upon finding out, he pulled me into a small grove. Hedda, I like you. I've liked you for many years. Will you be my girlfriend? Before I could even respond, he suddenly leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. That's how he smiled back then too. Now, standing here, I suddenly feel everything has become dull and even somewhat ridiculous. 8 years of emotions, every little moment we shared, now appear so pale and powerless at this moment. I once believed our bond was unbreakable. Now it seems as fragile as a thin sheet of paper, easily torn apart. I took a deep breath, trying hard to stay calm. Come on. Group photo. The photographer shouted. We quickly gathered around the bride and groom. The girl who had just confessed to Sean took advantage of the chaos and pushed me. When I turned around, she was already standing next to Sean, pressing close to him. Originally, the bride Georgia was our mutual friend. During our college years, we made a promise that in the future, we would serve as her groomsman and bridesmaid respectively. A few days ago, on the 8th anniversary of Sean and I being together, my company suddenly arranged for me to go on a business trip abroad. Because of this unexpected assignment, we had a fierce argument. Sean blamed me for breaking my promise, while I tried to explain. It was an unexpected work arrangement, not something I intentionally skipped. I tried to explain. Sean, I'll definitely rush back as soon as I resolve the branch company's matters. Don't be angry anymore. Okay, I coaxed. He was unusually angry. The company. Do you think the company can't function without you? Hedda, why don't you take a look in the mirror? You're just a graduate from a non-prestigious university. Don't overestimate yourself. My hand holding the luggage paused. At first, I was willing to humor him. It's because, on one hand, I did break the promise first. On the other hand, I also understand why he was so angry. It was because he cared so much about our anniversary. I told myself that because of love, there's care. But this very phrase slapped me awake. Perhaps it was a momentary impulse. Words spoken without thinking. But they struck like a sharp knife, piercing deep into the most vulnerable part of my heart. I had the chance to get into a top university. On the eve of the college entrance exam, Sean and his mother argued again over his father's infidelity. He chose to run away from home. His mother came to me, as his neighbor and friend. We had a really good relationship during that time. I was worried about his safety and went out to look for him desperately for a full 3 hours. As a result, I caught a cold and developed a high fever during the exam, which affected my performance. Only then did I go to the local school with him. After the argument, Sean blocked all my contact information again. I didn't take it too seriously. It wasn't the first time. He acts a bit immature, but I'm willing to tolerate it. But when I brought him the expensive Rolex I had bought, when returning from a business trip, hold the password. But it told me the password was wrong. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. Throughout the entire banquet, I ate without tasting the food, my heart heavy with sorrow. Watching Georgia happily marry the love of her life, how could it not be touching? But as soon as I thought of the present moment, my eyes couldn't help but moisten. During the next interactive segment, the host began tossing plush toys. Sean swiftly grabbed the kitty cat plush toy. Kitty is my favorite doll, and our home is filled with all kinds of pink kitties. Some were gifts from him during our university days. Others were carefully chosen together during our travels in Japan. Many of them were specially bought back at high prices from various places. I gently wiped away the tears from the corner of my eye and was about to stand up. But without hesitation, he handed the doll to another bridesmaid. His eyes filled with adoration. That gaze once belonged to me too. My body stiffened, and I slowly sat back down, a mix of emotions swirling in my heart. How ironic. But how could I just let go of 5 years of feelings so easily? I clung to a faint glimmer of hope in my heart. Perhaps Sean was really just deliberately trying to provoke me, wanting to teach me a lesson. After all, this wasn't the first time he had done something like this. Unwilling to give up, I tried adding Sean's contact again. I sent a message. Sean, I know I was wrong. Can you please accept my request? I thought he probably just wanted me to back down. However, this message sank like a stone, receiving no response whatsoever. Sean went to the restroom, leaving me sitting alone at the table with mixed emotions. Just then, the bridesmaid suddenly leaned over and whispered, "My name is Fanny. Tell me some fun stories about Sean." Looking at me, has he ever been in a relationship? What kind of girls does he like? I looked up, about to respond, but noticed her pause as she gazed into the distance. Suddenly, she poured the cola in her hand all over herself. I froze, staring at her in confusion, completely baffled by what had just happened. I was just about to get up to grab some tissues. Sean rushed in from behind and pushed me aside. I was knocked into the next seat, and red wine spilled all over me. His tone was urgent and angry. Hedda, you need to know when to throw a tantrum. Don't you see where we are today? He took off his suit jacket with a pained expression and wrapped it tightly around Fanny, as if she had suffered some grave injustice. What did I do? I asked indignantly, filled with confusion and resentment. Still making excuses. You spilled cola all over Fanny and you think you're in the right. Apologize to Fanny. Sean's voice was cold and stern, his eyes full of reproach. I stared at him in disbelief. After 8 years of knowing each other, falling in love, and being together, how could he not know what kind of person I am? I would never stoop to something as petty as throwing a drink or acting out of jealousy. Fanny suddenly spoke up in a soft, affected voice, saying, Sean, it was my own clumsiness. I accidentally spilled soda on my dress. Please don't blame your sister because of me. My heart sank. This kind of manipulative behavior, something I'd only read about in novels, was now happening to me in real life. Apologize. I won't say it again. Sean grabbed the Baijiu from the table and filled my glass. Drink up. Show some sincerity. Tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. Sean, you know I can't drink. He couldn't possibly not know. My stomach is too weak to handle alcohol. How could that be? Didn't you drink quite a bit at the gathering not long ago? He said coldly. That time he mentioned was when I accompanied him to a cocktail party. He had taken cephalosporin for a cold and couldn't drink, but he couldn't refuse the investor's toast either. So I grabbed the glass and volunteered to down it in one go. That night, my stomach burned with discomfort, while he, running a high fever of 39 degrees, crouched by the bed to feed me water. He even promised, saying, Hedda, don't drink anymore in the future. I can't bear to see it. Yet just a few months later, he had already forgotten. Seeing my hesitant expression, Fanny suddenly burst into tears, hiding in Sean's arms, sobbing softly, Sean, don't make it hard for your childhood friend. Whispers were already spreading around. I took a deep breath and picked up that glass of Baijiu. Don't expect an apology from me, but today is George's wedding, so I'll drink this. However, Sean, after this glass, we're done. Sean's eyes flickered with hesitation, but he didn't stop me. I downed the entire glass of Baijiu in one gulp, and immediately, a fiery burn spread through my throat and stomach. Come on, I'll take you to change your clothes. Sean's voice sounded in my ear, but it was directed at Fanny. In my sight, Sean left the wedding venue early with Fanny. I stood there, feeling a mix of emotions, yet also experiencing a sense of relief. Perhaps this relationship should have ended long ago. The clamor of the wedding had just faded when a sharp, wrenching pain surged through my stomach. It felt as though countless blades were twisting inside my abdomen. In this helpless moment, I instinctively reached for my phone and dialed Sean's number. Yet, all that answered was a cold automated voice. He had long since blocked me. At that moment, an inexplicable sense of resentment welled up inside me. I couldn't help but think, what if I really had an emergency? Gritting my teeth against the pain, I stumbled toward the elevator. Each step felt like walking on cotton, unsteady and surreal. I can't help but start to doubt myself. How did an 8-year relationship come to this? Where exactly did it go wrong? Am I not worthy of love? In a daze, I pushed open the door. The sight before me struck like a bolt of lightning, leaving me frozen in place. From the presidential suite came a series of ambiguous sounds, sharp as a knife, piercing straight into my heart. I couldn't believe my ears. I looked down at the room key in my hand, repeatedly checking that I hadn't entered the wrong room. Brother, be gentle. A delicate female voice cooed from inside, laced with a hint of coquetry. Don't speak. That was Sean's voice, low and urgent. My blood seemed to freeze at that moment. My heart felt as if gripped by an invisible hand, making it almost impossible to breathe. A buzzing filled my ears as my mind went completely blank. Brother, what are you afraid of? I've already locked the door. No one will hear us. Fanny's voice sounded again, carrying a hint of pride and provocation, as if flaunting her victory. I stood outside the door, the room key in my hand nearly deformed from my grip, my fingertips turning white from the pressure. 8 years of emotions, once filled with promises and sweetness, completely collapsed at this moment, turning to ashes. Those once spoken vows, Those shared moments all seemed to have turned into a mocking joke. Sean, it's completely over between us. I grabbed the vase from the entryway and smashed it violently onto the floor. With a loud bang, the ambiguous sounds in the room came to an abrupt halt. The depth of love once felt is now matched by the intensity of hatred. I took a deep breath and stepped into the room. Fanny was sitting on Sean, her clothes disheveled, with a lingering flush on her face. Even though I had already guessed what they were doing, the moment I saw it with my own eyes, I still felt a wave of disgust. My stomach churned violently, making even breathing difficult. Sean, changing clothes on the bed. I spoke coldly, my voice laced with barely suppressed anger and disappointment. You make me sick. Fanny hurriedly pulled the blanket over herself, feigning a look of panic. Yet her eyes flickered with a hint of smugness. I couldn't help but sneer. Miss Fanny, what act are you putting on now? Didn't you deliberately arrange this little show for me to see? He tilted his chin toward the slightly ajar door, which wasn't even locked. This whole setup was just to ensure I'd accidentally walk in on them. Miss Hedda, you're just Sean's childhood friend. Since when does he need to report his private affairs with other women to you? Fanny lifted her chin, her tone dripping with provocation. Seems to me, Miss Hedda, you're the one meddling where you don't belong. Ignoring her, I turned my gaze to Sean. He lounged lazily against the headboard, not a trace of guilt or panic on his face at being caught. Instead, with a hint of mockery, he glanced at me lightly. What are you here for? To catch me cheating? His tone was so casual, as if none of this mattered. There was also a touch of mischievous teasing. Are you that eager to jump into bed with another woman? I couldn't help but demand. Sean patted Fanny and said softly, Sweetheart, go out first and wait for me in the living room. Fanny reluctantly got up, wrapped herself in the blanket, and left the room. As soon as the door closed, Sean suddenly reached out and pulled me into his arms. I tried to break free, but his strength was too great, and I couldn't move at all. What are you doing? I growled through clenched teeth. He leaned close to my ear, his breath warm, angry. We didn't actually do anything. I glared at him fiercely. Everything was right in front of me. Did he expect me to pretend not to see? Fanny's clothes didn't just vanish on their own, did they? I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. Sean, you're truly despicable. My voice trembled, yet every word was clear. He didn't take it seriously, instead firmly holding the back of my head and kissing me. In the past, when we argued, it was like this too, resolving conflicts with kisses. Sean knows how to please me in bed, but this time, when I closed my eyes, all I could see was that scene, him shirtless, Fanny sitting on top of him, her lips still bearing ambiguous marks. I pushed him away abruptly, my voice as cold as ice. Let's break up. Sean, I feel sick. He froze for a moment, then laughed as if he'd heard a joke. Think carefully. Hedda, your mother is still in the ICU. How long can you last with your meager income? I felt as if I was truly seeing him for the first time. I stared at him in disbelief. You want me to beg you? Are you threatening me? He shrugged, his tone flippant. Not exactly. I just think that if we're breaking up, I should be the one to say it first. Besides, after all these years together, how could you bear to let go? What makes him think I would still love him even if he cheated? I let out a mocking laugh, my tone resolute. Do you really think you can control me? Sean, I said we're breaking up, and that means we're breaking up. Wait, he suddenly called out to me, his gaze lingering on my haute couture dress, the necklace around my neck, and the bag in my hand. That haute couture dress, the necklace, and this bag, they're all mine. Leave them here. I clenched the bag tightly in my hand, my knuckles turning white from the force. All the grievances, anger, and resentment erupted at this moment. Perhaps it was the effect of alcohol. I turned around and slammed my bag hard onto his head. We wrestled fiercely together. He had clearly forgotten that I was the runner-up in our year's competition. Though not the champion, I'm more than enough to deal with him. I knew this fight completely shattered the last shred of dignity between us. Panting, I glared at him. Want me to return them? Dream on. Can these things even compare to the 8 years of my youth I've wasted? With that, I grabbed my bag, turned around, and walked away without looking back, leaving the suite. My footsteps were heavy as they sank into the plush red carpet. I knew exactly how wretched I looked at that moment. My face was scratched with several bloody marks. My hair was disheveled, and my makeup had long since smeared beyond recognition. But it doesn't matter. He wasn't much better off either. I broke his bones, so we're even. Inappropriately, I remembered the stray cat we adopted during our senior year. We took care of it for a full 7 years, until it passed away from illness. Back then, Sean held me as I cried uncontrollably, whispering comfort. Don't cry, Hedda. We can just adopt a better-looking one. Thinking back now, I guess I was that abandoned stray cat. The warmth and promises of the past have long since vanished into thin air. Georgia found me in the stairwell. I looked pale and utterly exhausted, her eyes filled with concern. You scared me to death. Sweetheart, did Sean hurt you? I remained silent, just leaning wearily against the wall. I knew he was a bastard. I thought your Cold War during the wedding was just a joke. But I never expected he'd actually be with that bitch, Georgia said, her voice trembling with anger, fists clenched tightly. I gave a bitter smile and asked softly, Fanny, isn't she your cousin? She's a relative from my stepmom's side. She was originally abroad, but suddenly went crazy and came back, insisting on being a bridesmaid. Georgia said through gritted teeth, let's not talk about it anymore. I'll take you to the hospital. I shook my head, forcing a faint smile. It's nothing. I'll be fine after some rest. Actually, I recognized her. During my senior year of high school, I was bullied by a transfer student. She was the ringleader. Georgia froze, hesitating before asking, then did Sean recognize her too? I shook my head. I don't know. Nor do I care anymore. It's been many years since I deliberately recalled those past events. Their methods weren't that sophisticated either. They made people around me isolate me, warning others to beware of their retaliation if they dared to joke or talk with me. Lock me in the classroom after evening self-study, or during PE class. They mocked me as a cow. The most severe case was Fanny's close friend, who reportedly got dumped and took her anger out on me. But I've practiced Sonda, Chinese kickboxing, so they couldn't beat me at all. So they resorted to underhanded tactics, adding sleeping pills to the water, and later tried to slash my face. The incident escalated severely, ultimately ending with Fanny leaving the country. At first, I didn't recognize it, partly because of the Cold War situation. I didn't have the mental space to think about it. Later, I realized she had undergone subtle adjustments to her entire face. It was just some habitual movements of hers that instantly reminded me. My thoughts were pulled back to reality. No. How can I rest assured if you're like this? Georgia insisted. Forget it. I'll have Claire come take care of you. Claire. Sean greatly admires him, regarding him as a business legend. Although Sean's family is already quite prominent, compared to Claire's family, there remains an insurmountable gap. He arrived very quickly, as if he had been waiting for me. Of course, I was just thinking about it. I'm not that narcissistic yet. Supporting me, he suggested. Today is George's wedding. I've prepared fireworks outside the hotel. Want to join me? I naturally agreed. On the open-air balcony, I watched the fireworks display, dazzling to the extreme. My mood improved slightly. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was Sean. I hung up without hesitation. Then came the barrage of messages. Who are you with? Found another man so quickly. Hedda, how desperate are you? Don't you think this makes you look cheap? I deleted the message and blocked him, always being the one blocked before. Finally taking the initiative to block someone myself. It feels incredibly refreshing. As we returned to the room, we bumped right into Sean. Talk about bad luck crossing paths. Sean leaned against the wall with a mocking smile. No wonder you were in such a hurry to break up with me this time. Turns out you found someone better. From his perspective, it did look like I was being rather intimate with Claire. But I didn't remove Claire's hand. On the contrary, I also noticed the warmth and strength emanating from his right hand. I deliberately moved closer to him. Why can't I take revenge on Sean? Right, a branch higher than you. I looked at him calmly. Hedda, Claire is the kind of person who'll play you to death if you mess with him. The anger in my heart flared up again. Seems like I didn't hit hard enough. Before the words even finished, I suddenly raised my foot and kicked him. Sean was caught off guard and fell heavily to the ground, letting out a muffled groan through gritted teeth. If you can't speak properly even with a broken bone, then I'll teach you a lesson today. I looked down at him coldly, my voice icy. Let's go. Claire whispered a reminder, supporting me as we continued forward. I didn't look back, nor did I notice Claire glancing at Sean as she left, her eyes filled with contempt, as if looking at some trash. In the past, of course, I had also seen Claire before, at an auction where she outbid me for a set of jewelry I liked. We had also met at banquets, but back then my eyes were only on Sean. Once when I was on my period, I sat alone in a corner, He came over with a glass of wine and exchanged a few words with me. She left shortly after. And then the waiter brought me painkillers and a heating pad. So when Claire appeared in front of me, I didn't think much of it, assuming he might be there to mediate or perhaps to look after me out of consideration for Georgia. Since Georgia was worried I might be bullied, only he could keep everyone at the scene in check. Did you break up? Claire's voice was low and calm, betraying no emotion. I nodded, expecting him to urge me to calm down like the others or to say a few good words for Sean. However, his next words left me frozen in place. Happy breakup, he said lightly, then paused, looking straight at me. Hedda, would you consider me? I was momentarily speechless, my heartbeat suddenly quickening. The air instantly became awkward and I could even feel my ears burning. It's okay. You can take your time to think, he said gently, yet with undeniable firmness. I have plenty of patience. But now, you must take your medicine first. I obediently opened my mouth and swallowed the hangover medicine he handed me. But my mind was in complete chaos. Why would he say that? Was he confessing to me? But we're clearly not that familiar with each other. I secretly glanced up at him, but when I met his deep gaze, I was so startled that I immediately lowered my head. The day after the wedding, Georgia suggested we go to Emerald Villa to relax. It said there's a hot spring there with breathtaking scenery. Standing at the hotel entrance, Sean suddenly appeared out of nowhere, standing beside me. His tone carried a hint of probing. It's a long way to the villa from here, and you can't get a taxi. I ignored him and directly boarded the Rolls-Royce that had pulled up across the street. Over the next few days, Sean was practically haunting me. He kept appearing within my line of sight from time to time, as if deliberately trying to make his presence known. Claire clearly noticed my irritation. One evening, he stood beside me and said in a calm tone, "If you're troubled, I don't mind clearing the obstacles for you." I thought he wanted us to appear ambiguous. I even wondered, does he want to Sean kiss me in front of him? But the reality was not so. Before I could respond, he had already taken action. Soon, a collaborative project of Sean's family was cancelled. Sean had to rush back to the company without delay to deal with the mess. The world finally quieted down. I took a good rest at the mountain villa, and my complexion improved significantly. And Claire would only accompany me for daily walks to help me relax. A few days later, I decided to return to my old home to pack my belongings. I initially planned to hire a moving company directly, but Sean insisted. I won't let strangers in. Left with no choice, I had to make the trip myself. Sean opened the door, surprisingly cooperative in his demeanor. However, when I entered the room, I discovered that all my kitty cat dolls were missing. "Sean, where are my figurines?" I asked coldly. He glanced at me and retorted defiantly. "Sold them. Listed them all on Shenyu and sold every one." I sneered. Even if it were sold, it couldn't have found a buyer this quickly, could it? I opened my phone and searched for Sean's Shenyu account, and sure enough, I found the doll he had listed. The doll was sold at a fixed price of 100,000, all packaged and gone. "You still remember my account? There's still some affection between us, right?" Sean suddenly spoke, a hint of expectation in his tone. "What's the point of saying all this now?" I interrupted him coldly. Sean scratched his head, sounding somewhat helpless. "Haven't we fought before? Wasn't it always you who ended up comforting me? Hedda, why can't it be the same this time?" I looked at him, feeling a surge of sorrow. "Sean, you want to break up too, don't you? You said the 8th anniversary was really important to you. Is that true?" I asked the florist we often order from. "You bought a huge bouquet of sunflowers and roses. But I'm allergic to sunflowers. Do you even know where those flowers ended up? Even my trip abroad was arranged by you." "Sean, I feel like I've never truly known you. What exactly are you after? If you want to break up, you could have just said it directly. Hedda, won't cling to you shamelessly." Sean's face gradually turned pale. His lips moved slightly, but no words came out. I took a deep breath and continued. "Oh, by the way, I heard from Claire that you're about to get engaged. Is that true? You kept such big news from me. After all this planning, are you trying to make me your mistress?" Sean finally panicked, his voice trembling slightly. "You already know. Long ago, I noticed Sean's mom had developed a subtle change in her attitude towards me. Back in our school days, when I supervised Sean's studies, she treated me with the warmth of a biological daughter. Even when Sean went missing, the first person she contacted wasn't the police. It was me. She held our hands and said earnestly, 'You must look out for each other in college too. In our junior year, we officially became a couple. Sean's mom took off the jade bracelet from her wrist and solemnly handed it to me. This is our family heirloom passed down to daughters-in-law. Hedda, keep it safe. At that moment, I truly believed I had been accepted by this family, that I had become a part of them. However, last year, Sean's mom suddenly asked me to return the jade bracelet. She casually remarked, "The jade bracelet needs maintenance." As I handed it to her, I felt a vague unease in my heart. Sure enough, the jade bracelet never returned to my hand after that. I had actually understood her meaning long ago. I just didn't want to admit it. I always thought I was the one Sean firmly chose. He once said to me, "Hedda, you stand in my future." Yet I was careless. 8 years have passed without an engagement. Not even a clear commitment. How could there not be problems? After packing my bags, I dragged my suitcase ready to leave. Sean suddenly grabbed my hand, his voice tinged with pleading. "Hedda." I coldly withdrew my hand, my tone resolute. "Please show some self-respect. Hedda, I didn't mean to." He tried to explain, his eyes filled with panic. I interrupted him, my voice calm yet icy. "From the moment you wanted to have your cake and eat it too, we no longer had a future. I was just gambling that your love for me would outweigh worldly prejudices." His voice trailed off, tinged with helplessness. "No, Sean, this isn't worldly prejudice," I said, looking straight into his eyes, enunciating each word clearly. "Asking me to be your third is an insult to me. Moreover, using such despicable methods, repeatedly gaslighting me, trying to make me accept the fact of his infidelity, making me drown in guilt and self-doubt. I can't psychologically bear to be without him." But he misjudged me. Finally, with reddened eyes as if about to shatter, he pleaded, "I was wrong. Hedda, please forgive me one last time." I remained silent, turned around, and walked away. All these years, I've been working diligently, hardly ever taking a break for myself. Now, I finally have some time to catch my breath. In the train station, I feel the surge of the crowd around me, yet my heart remains unusually calm. Suddenly, someone gently taps me on the shoulder from behind. I turned around and saw Claire standing there, holding a simple luggage bag with a very familiar kitty cat plush toy hanging from it. There was a faint smile on his face. "Let's go," he said softly, his tone so natural as if all this were taken for granted. I froze for a moment, then smiled. "What are you doing here?" He shrugged and said casually, "I heard you're going to Tibet. I happen to want to go there too. Let's go together. It'll be good to have company on the road." I looked at him, and a sudden warmth welled up in my heart. Perhaps this is the start of something new.